Welcome to Inside Plug, the podcast where independent creators and entrepreneurs connect and inspire. I'm your host, Devon Jones. I'm a military veteran turned filmmaker. I found my spark in the military, and now I'm here to help you find yours. Inside Plug is a platform for your voice, stories to be shared, and ideas to flourish. Let's dive in and plug into creativity and entrepreneurship together. Today we have Julian Thomas. He's an actor, audiobook narrator, author, poet. He's written over 20 audiobooks, I believe. Um, he's in a Netflix series called Tell Them You Love Me. He plays John, the brother of Derek Johnson. He has an interest in jazz music. One of his favorite books that I've stumbled across is called The Four Agreements, and he done some commercials. And yeah, without further ado, Julian, welcome back to the show.
Thank you very much. Very nice to be here. Very nice to be here. And the audiobooks, I've narrated 20 audiobooks that are up on
Narrate. All
Audible.
right, nice,
But
nice.
they're all written by different authors, fiction, nonfiction. There's a detective story. The one is a hitman that's
Oh,
traveling across the country. It feels like a Tarantino movie. That
nice.
book is called Layla's Score, actually. That's one of my favorites.
All right, nice, nice. We'll get into that. All right, so
Right.
actually, that goes into the first question. So, this let's see here. So, what's your favorite book, and why does it resonate with you?
My favorite book that I've worked on narrating, or just favorite book out of
Favorite
everything?
book overall, like a book that you read, a book that you
Oh,
wrote.
man. First book that popped into my head is Invisible Man. Ralph Ellison, Invisible Man.
All
I
right.
grew up with that book, and I've been big on it really since high school. Um, that's kind of where we're at in this country right now. The process of being othered. To me, that's what I take away from that classic book. And this whole story of this guy that moves from the South to the big city, but he gets up there and he discovers that he's invisible to all these people that he interacts with. And if they do see him, they only see him as this one particular type of black man. To me, that captures a lot of the entire American experience right now. Like not just black people, but everybody that's been othered. Everybody that sits outside of, what we would call the normative sphere of wealthy white male. Everybody that's outside of that is pretty much experiencing Invisible Man. Yeah, sure. I think I'm always going to relate to that book for that reason.
Nice, nice. Like the perspective. All right. So you're in this Netflix series, the true crime. It's called Tell Them You Love Me. Can you
Yes.
tell us a little bit about it? How did you find yourself attached to the project?
Sure, sure. I've been kind of working back and forth. I'm based in New York for this year. I was out in Denver for most of last year performing a lot of poetry. And before that, I was back here in New York, filming on yeah, just a lot of indie movie projects. That was a project that I found online and got casted for. And this true crime story, Tell Them You Love Me, really kind of came out of nowhere. We didn't expect it to go viral. All of a sudden, it was a big media story. I think mainly because we really haven't heard a story like that where, a disabled person is at the center of the story. The whole movie revolves around a true event that happened. A professor from Rutgers dated a graduate student that had cerebral palsy, and I mean they dated, they did the thing, and so the older brother and the mom decided to sue. And this documentary movie is just centered around the whole story. The professor ended up doing some jail time and everything, but I got to play the older brother in some of the reenactment scenes, and the movie just came out really at the end of June. But just seeing how everybody reacted to it has really been powerful. We that's a that's a story about an other. that we've
Mm-hmm.
never really heard before. We've never heard a story from that perspective of a student, with a disability like that. Um, it was to the point where he really couldn't communicate. He had to type through this typewriter system to even communicate with people. And so it raised this whole other debate about what they call facilitated communication and whether or not that's even valid. This is a topic that's still being debated at the university level, even right now. So I think the director just, I don't want to say he got lucky on the topic that he chose, but he really stumbled onto this story and there was something about it that he connected to emotionally. And I guess it just ended up being good timing. Sure. It was a story that needed to be told right now.
Okay. Yeah. I stumbled across one of the Q&As, and it is strong, and just watching Derek Johnson there on the stage with his family, and the story is about him. Even though he can't speak, you can sense that he knows, he feels it. And even I'm hearing when John says something, I can't exactly the word it that he said, but he says that Derek can't verbally express, but just being around him, just watching his behaviors, as a sibling, he knows when things are going like the right way. He can, he sees, and then like when I watch the Q&A, Derek shows those things. He does physically show those things, and that's like the beautiful thing, because when you're around them, I never met the person, but just watching the Q&A on a YouTube video, you can feel that if you were in that presence, that what's right and right and what's wrong is wrong. And even though that person can't verbally communicate that, they're showing you that they're communicating. And even when like he's listening, he'll like his the mom, she was telling her story how like, the school that he went to, they didn't have like the special high chair for him. And Derek, he was like real close, and you could tell he was like deep and tuned and like really gathering what she was saying. Even though he couldn't verbalize like agree with her, he knew. And that right there, I just like, oh yes, this is like, yes, like you said, like the other, like and this is like perfect, because it is hard to tell that type of story, and Derek himself could not tell that story. So yes, yes, I'm so glad that
It's
you're a part of that. I'm glad that you're able to share the story, and I'm glad that this Netflix is able to air this, because it is a
yeah,
true story, and like true people go through this. Yes, so that's like so amazing.
man, I
Um,
appreciate it. For real. It's rare in acting, in my experience, to get to work on something that's that real. You know what I mean? That lands and affects people that heavy. A lot of my experience with acting, I mean, you go through the ups and downs. You know what I mean?
mm,
People always ask me, how's the acting going? Valleys and peaks. That's always my answer, valleys and peaks. Because that's really
speak.
what it is to be an actor, but especially to be a person of color in the acting field. I ran into some difficulties because I did one role on a TV show called For Life on ABC, and it was kind of the typical hoodlum thing. I come out waving the gun and, being all extra gangster and whatnot. And after that, my manager kept wanting me to do more parts like that. And I came back at them like, look, it was cool to do one. Everybody got to see it on ABC. But for one, that's not really my public image. For two, that's just not really my style. Um, I do audiobooks. I do all kinds of other projects. And so for me, if I would have let myself get typecasted into only doing roles like that, it would have messed up my other jobs that I already had going on. And that's something that I always like to mention because actors need to hear that you don't have to take whatever they throw at you in this business. They're always going to try to get the easy fix and type you into whatever they think is going to be the easiest thing to place you in. You don't have to accept it. That's all I'm saying.
Nice. Glad to share that. All right.
Yeah,
And that just rolls right into this next one. So what advice would you give someone looking to enter the similar field, whether it's audiobook narrator, poetry, acting?
man. Um, Advice I would give someone is do your research, do your homework, learn everything about the field that you can. That's all the external process. Get on all the websites, talk to everybody you can get in front of, especially for acting, though. Any information you can get from anybody is helpful because they charge for that information. You got to pay $50 just to get in front of a casting director and have them talk to you. And so, if you have access to people that are in the field working, get them to talk to you. Get them, ask them as many questions as you can. The internal work is know thyself. Um, get in touch with everything about your personality and what makes you tick and what makes you emotional on a genuine level. You have to be honest with yourself as an artist. You can't fake it anymore. This whole fake it till you make it thing, that was cool, but that was kind of 10 years ago. Right now, they want authenticity. They want the genuine article. And so the more that you know yourself, the more that you know what your genuine buttons are, what makes you, emotional in different ways, that's the part that you have to keep hammering away at and being honest with yourself about. That's just kind of where the market is now. There's no wiggle room to fake it anymore. There's too many people trying to do this stuff. You know what I mean? The competition level gets higher and higher every year because everybody on Instagram thinks that they can be famous now. And I guess in a way, it is kind of reality. I mean, this Hawk Tui girl is about to be in TV shows and movies now. And not to put anybody down, but like to get famous off of that, that's just evidence that we're living in some very different times. Times are changing, things are different now. A viral moment is what makes it really pop. And so if you're a trained musician or a trained poet or an actor that's been doing this all your life, that's almost a harder hill to climb because that kind of artist is not going to be satisfied with some silly viral moment. That's not how you want to get famous if you're a real artist. And again, I'm not trying to put anybody down. I'm not dissing the process. Everybody gets to it any way that they want, but I guess my approach is more I would rather have the money than the fame. That would be my bottom line. And so knowing yourself, knowing what you're going after in the game is the number one rule. I know that about myself. I'm here to get paid off of my artwork. I don't need to be famous. I'm about as famous as I really want to get right now. I'm cool with this level. Now I need to figure out how to develop film projects and books that I want to publish. Now I want the money. Now I want the producer cash flow. I want the revenue stream. That's just me. That's personal.
Mhm. Nice. Thanks for that. Thanks for sharing that. All right.
Yeah,
Where can the audience find you? What's your social media handles? You got any websites?
absolutely. Instagram, it's Thomas underscore art and life. Definitely look me up. I'm taking a lot of podcast episodes right now. Just did an episode for the Poets podcast based out of Denver. And I think the website is just thepoets.co. I'm on Facebook as well. I've got an actor page under Julian Thomas, and my Twitter handle is Julian Thomas 99. But at this point, I mean, a person can just search me on audible.com, and that's the audiobook website. You just type in Julian Thomas on there, and all of my audiobooks will pop right up. And really, that's a level that was a game changer for me. That's a calling card. You know what I mean? So having multiple books that are findable like that I've narrated these different types of books, that's something that I don't have to go out of my way to prove to somebody. You can search it and it pops right up. My name is able to type into Google and my actors page pops up from IMDb. That's something that took a long time in the game to get to that level, but yeah, sure. Some of the hard work is paying off. I like to look at it as the good karma is coming back to me.
Uh,
But it does. It takes time to build that kind of stuff up. It does.
all right. So you spent some time in New York, and it says you're from Tulsa, Oklahoma. So would you prefer city life or the countryside?
Wow, that's a good question. Personally, I'm a country boy at heart, and I think it's always going to be that way. Um, I like the city. It's fun. There's a lot going on, and there's a lot of artists to connect with, and that definitely helps out. But it gets hectic, man. The noise, the concrete, dealing with whatever crazy mess that you're gonna see on the subway one day to the next, it adds up. I think when you hit a certain age, that city life really is just adding to your blood pressure. And it's like, I need to slow it down. I have friends in Connecticut that I can go visit. I hop on the Metro North Rail and, they've got all these trails and nature hikes through the woods and stuff. I do that every chance I get because that's how I grew up. Growing up in Tulsa, that's the best feature of the city. There's all these parks. It's so outdoorsy. That's what I liked about Denver so much. It's that outdoor nature that helps me connect with my writing. Um, a lot of my writing comes from a spiritual place, and so I need that space to really let my mind kind of let go and expand like that. Um, so yeah, nothing against the city, but I think I'll always enjoy the countryside a little bit more. Sure.
All right. So right before we wrap up, what's something you want to tell the audience? What's something that they can learn from, watching this interview or just, following your pages and, seeing what you do?
Sure. Um, I've got a new book coming out. My new poetry book is called Black Existentialism: Autumn Leaves and Other Space Oddities. And the whole concept is centered around this idea of Black existentialism that was coined really from the African liberation movement. And that was the genesis of a lot of these terms that we hear tossed around right now, decolonize the mind and things like that. A lot of these terms came from African writers, Caribbean writers, who were describing the process of writing in a language that wasn't their own natural heritage. So in Africa and the Caribbean, a lot of these writers had to write in French because the scholars that made it out, they all got trained in Paris. And so a lot of their writings would talk about how can I explain my culture in a language that isn't my own. Living today, modern life as Black Americans, this is the experience that we're living. And so I chose that term to label my book as because I'm looking to modernize this concept of Black existentialism. What we're living in America right now is the state of being the other. Everyone is the other that doesn't fall under that mainstream category. And what I would really love to do is let this kind of be a platform that can unite us. Anybody that doesn't fit the mainstream, and at this point, that includes most of the people out there. I want people to understand we are one in this experience. We don't have to focus on the things that divide us. We're all living this similar experience, the experience of the American rat race. And it just is what it is. You know what I mean? Everybody over here can relate to that. It doesn't matter what your preference is, what your background is, your race, your whatever label that you want to put on yourself. We're all living the same struggle. and I do hope that that's something that I can carry moving forward. Um, Authors that would fit under this Black existentialism term: Amiri Baraka, a lot of the '70s revolutionary poets, Gil Scott Heron, Sonia Sanchez. But yeah, sure, some white authors too. Ginsberg, I would mention Miguel Pinheiro in that vein. Um, in the modern context, the only movie that really makes me think of that is They Clone Tyrone. I don't know if you got to see that one on Netflix,
I have to
but
check.
They Clone Tyrone is my favorite movie that's come out in a long time. Um, it brought up some real life American stories that you just don't see that side of American life told very often. Yeah, sure, they took it into some conspiracy theory kind of places and things like that. They kind of had to make it Hollywood at the end so that, you can't put a movie out that exposes too many secrets nowadays. But I like that that movie drove in that direction and got some people thinking about this other side of the population. That's the whole concept, and so that's why I chose that title for my poetry book.
All
Uh,
right, thanks. All right, thanks, Julian. So everyone, check out Julian Thomas is on the Netflix True Crime special. Tell them you love me. He plays John, the brother of Derek Johnson. It was a pleasure having you. All right, thanks for tuning in to Inside Plug. We hope you enjoyed today's episode and found it inspiring. If you love what you heard, don't forget to subscribe, rate, and leave a review on InsidePlug.com. Your feedback helps us bring you more content. Until next time, keep creating. Devon Jones signing off. Stay inspired. Julian, thanks so much. This is
Thank you
awesome.
very much. This was great. Yeah, thanks.
Thank you for tuning into Inside Plug. All right, we hope you
I'll
enjoyed
keep.
today's episode and found it inspiring. Remember, every journey begins with a single step, and every creator has a story worth sharing. If you love what you heard, don't forget to subscribe, rate, and leave a review. Your feedback helps us bring you more content. Follow us on social media to stay updated on our upcoming episodes and join our community of passionate creators and entrepreneurs. Until next time, keep creating, dreaming, and plugging into your passion. Devon Jones signing off. Stay inspired.